Episode number 66 of the All Things Cleveland Cavaliers podcast is here, and me and my good friend Joey Schneider are going to sound like a broken record with these Cavs. Joey, how are you on this one tonight?
What's going on, Brandon? Getting over this cough finally. Just hoping I'm not going to be coughing my brains out, but man, this cold wrecked me. Cough. My voice is coming back a little bit, but it seems to go up and down. Like when the Cavs lose, I cough my brains out, and when they're winning, it's like the cure that heals all. Last night, I coughed my brains out as they lost to the Miami Heat, and we will get to that here in a moment. But Brandon, we said last week we predicted for the last four games of the Cavs that we went over the last four games they played, and you said they would be lucky if they went 2-2, and they got lucky and went 2-2. However, they should have been at least 3-1. This is like and I've used this term before when talking about the Cavs, and I don't know if I said it on this podcast or if I was talking to someone, but I said it's like Groundhog's Day, like the movie, where it just seems like the same thing over and over and over again. Like the consistency is not there. One game, it looks like they are just one of the worst teams in the league, and then they come back and they have a phenomenal game. And then they get beat again by a team that has no business beating them. And then they go and they absolutely ruin a team they're up by 30 at half. And then they play a team like the Miami Heat who, they're tough. They don't go away. And they just can't pull it out when they had every opportunity to pull away. Every single thing that went wrong could have went wrong. And it's like you're watching the same thing over night in, night out. Well, here's a win and then a loss and then a win and a loss. Good teams can't do that. And my frustration with this team right now is, and it's almost hard to pinpoint because I gotta take a huge breath of air for this one to try to get this out. There's my one. The frustration is that lack of consistency. We have talked about it episode after episode after episode about how this team is not playing up to its potential, and it's frustrating because we've seen how good they can be. We've seen them rattle off 8-9 wins in a row. We've seen them come back from huge, huge deficits and come back and win the game. We've also seen them give up huge leads and blow the game. And it's just like this consistency is not there. And I don't know who to blame this week because it seems like every week we're always, okay, well, this person's not doing. The DG is averaging 22-8, this year. Mitchell I don't know if something's going on. He hasn't been as productive as he was earlier in the season. His three doesn't seem to be there as much, so I'll put a little bit on him. But Jared Allen is giving you that 15-10, 16-12, like we've always talked about. He normally does. Evan Mobley he's looked phenomenal. It looks like he's taking that next step. At least this last week he has looked like that. He's been more aggressive. We've been saying he's got to get more aggressive. Take the threes, even if you miss it. Get in there and bang. And I think he's been averaging 19-10 or 19-11 over the last four games. Isaac Okoro, who we have talked about, he's been doing a lot of the little things. He's averaging 40.3% from three over his last 25 games. Teams are going to have to start accounting for him. He's playing much better offensively. So I'm just kind of sitting here going, who do you blame? And I mean, the only thing you can blame, and you look at the stat sheet and you got to go and you got to blame the bench because we are getting killed on bench points night in, night out. That has been the one consistent thing. So it's almost like the thing that we talked about at the beginning of the year that was our strength, and really at the beginning of the year was when Dean Wade was healthy and before Kevin Love hurt his thumb and all that. Our bench was killing it, and something has happened over the last 6-7 weeks to where our bench almost seems like the liability now.
So I've said for probably the first 3 to 4 minutes of this podcast, and I have waited patiently while my partner once again has exquisitely detailed what's been going on with this Cavs team, as he always likes to do. From my perspective, and I've seen a lot of this conversation deep in the bowels of the interweb on social media, if you will. And over the last few weeks, really, I think there's been a consistency among the fan base that this team is struggling. But I've seen a lot of excuses to, oh, this team is young, to oh, yada, yada, yada. They're still the 5th in the East. They still have the 7th best record in the NBA, to, oh, they've been injured, and just all these excuses. And I'm just going to say that I am tired of it. I think that this team should be way better than where they're at right now. We talked about this last week. I don't care that at this point in the season, they have the exact same record than they did last year. The point being is last year, they did not have Donovan Mitchell for most of the season. This year they have. They should be better. I get it. They are a young team. They're going to have growing pains, but also this learning experience is what should have happened last year, not this year. They should know how to close out these games, and they're just not doing it. They're making the same mistake over and over and over again. And I think, to go with your point about the bench, something happened to the bench. I don't know if it's just coincidental that Love ended up basically hitting the wall randomly, where he just all of a sudden really can't play anymore. Last night he was a healthy scratch. I don't know if it's the case that we don't really play a backup power forward or center. Jetty and when Mitchell's healthy, really Levert are the only two people that really come in off the bench. And so I think by nature, you're playing your starters 38, 39, 40 minutes, and they're getting sloppy in the second half, and they're turning the basketball over. And then, or they're going stagnant offensively. And it's a lot of, isolation again with Garland and Mitchell, when they're not passing the ball and they're not playing all 48 minutes. Regardless, I think it's on everybody. And I'm concerned about the lack of accountability, the lack of leadership on this team, because all I've heard from the past 2 or 3 days, even again, like we beat the Clippers without Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Whoop-de-doo. We were playing the Clippers G League. We should have beat them by 30. And last night against Miami, that's a disappointing loss. That's a game that you had in your hands that you should have won. And I didn't hear no one say, "Oh, it's on me. We have to get better." All I keep hearing every day is, learning experience. We're gonna get it together. Learning experience. We're gonna get it together. JB Bickerstaff came out today and said, there's a lot of noise around this team. And there is a lot of noise around this team because they're not playing that well. They are 23 and 21 in their last 44 games, which is only 2 games above 500. And if it wasn't for that 8-game winning streak to start the year, we may be in the play-in tournament right now. And Miami is only a game and a half back of us. And Miami has struggled all year long, but they have dealt with injuries as well. But they are starting to get healthy, as we saw last night. So the good news for this team, I guess, is the schedule is getting easier. They arguably went through the gauntlet these past couple weeks, and they have an opportunity here in the next week or two before the All-Star break to get it corrected. But I'm sick of just watching the same thing over and over again, because while we do watch all the games because we do this podcast, I'll be honest with you, it feels like you could turn on the game in the fourth quarter and not have missed a single thing and know exactly what you're going to get from this team, which is either they're down 10 and they're going to make a comeback, or they're up 10 and they're going to blow the game and lose.
You know, and that's I agree with you 100%. I mean, I'm trying to come back with anything, but I mean, there's just nothing that you can say, and it is on the starters too, because if you look at a game like last night, like they had so many opportunities to blow the game wide open near the end. You know, I think they were up by 2, and then you know, or it was tied, or they were up by 2, and then you had a travel call. Then you had you know, a Coro go out of bounds. Then you had a moving screen on JA, and then you know, Mobley, you know, right, just literally 2 feet from the hoop, couldn't lay it in, and then you had Levert with a great block down at the other end, and then they threw the ball away, and then they had like 3 turnovers. I mean, it was like you literally had, or you know, 7, 8, 9 plays that you're like, oh my god, like any single one of those, if you just put the ball in the hoop, is, you know, maybe they win the game, and they couldn't do it, and that's why you keep hearing everyone say they need to learn how to finish these games out, and it's like, well, this isn't the time that you should be learning. You should have learned this. What's the difference between last year and this year? You just said it. The difference is Donovan Mitchell. Like, it's not like we lost anybody. We gained Donovan Mitchell. How the hell do we have the same record right now that we did last year at the same point in the season, but we added a superstar, someone who is starting in the All-Star game? It makes no sense to me how this is happening. And you could go back and you could watch every loss the Cavs have had, and I guarantee you that there's probably 7 or 8 games that the Cavs should have won, and they would probably be the 1 or the 2 seed right now.
They should have, I would say, at least 37 wins right now. Mm-hmm. And the crazy thing is 2 of those wins came very early in the season against Boston. And Boston obviously has been on a roll. And again, I've seen the counter argument to a lot of people saying, oh, the NBA is down this year, and you know, there's a lot of teams at that near 500 mark. But I'm like, yeah, but do you realize how many games this team? We should be right there with Boston at the top of the East if we just learned how to finish. It's a lack of adjustments too, I think. Just by everybody involved, the players, the coaching staff. Some nights they shoot 43, some nights they don't shoot at all. Again, the rotation seems like it's completely out of whack because JB doesn't seem like he trusts anybody on that bench except maybe Levert, maybe. I mean, you're not. I think the problem with this team is we gave up all the assets we had almost for Donovan Mitchell. I mean, you're not going to be able to fix this bench in one night. The team doesn't trust it for some reason. And we will get into this, but I don't see even whatever trade they do make, whether it's, you know, very small or small, because it's not going to be some huge move. But whatever move they make, it's not going to move the needle for this team, in my opinion, because the starters do drive this team. And we all kind of thought that Rubio coming back would settle down the bench, which, I mean, Rubio was doing his best to get back into game shape, but he really hasn't, you know, he's done his part, but he hasn't elevated the bench at all. And it, you know, feels like there's more time again where they're going to their 3-guard lineup with Rubio, Garland, and Mitchell, which
I told you.
Which, yep, you did. Which, I mean, it's worked on occasion. It hasn't worked on occasion as well. So I don't know. I don't think the issues with this team are solvable right now. Unfortunately, I think that they have the talent. I know that you believe this too. They have the talent to be a top 4 seed in the East, and whether they do that is to be seen. But I think this team, and I said it even probably in December, they feel like a bunch of front runners to me. They feel like they can beat up on the bad and act like they're the baddest boys in the block, and they come down and they play a team that arguably they are better than right now in the Miami Heat. And they could have won that game by 10 to 15 points last night. And a team that has been so good on their own court for so long this year, over the past couple games, the Golden State game and now this game against Miami, they haven't been able to close at home. And that's even more concerning considering their road struggles they've had.
Yeah. I mean, I think the Cavs can beat any team in the NBA. I mean, they're talented enough to, but it just seems like at this almost the same point. It seems about halfway through the fourth quarter every game, things just start to come unglued. Unless they have a massive lead, and even then, we've seen that dissipate at times. But it just seems like they either come in from behind, which hasn't actually happened in a little bit if you think about it. It's been I don't know how many games, but maybe
no. It's been mostly them having leads and not keeping them.
Exactly. But there was a stretch there probably a few weeks ago, and for a few weeks before that, where it seemed like every game they were coming from behind and either winning the game or getting right back in it and then losing it at the end. And the last few weeks up until now feels like they have the lead and then they lose it, or and it's just frustrating. Or they get the brakes beat off of them by G League teams.
And I mean, Stars is right. I mean, Garland even last night, turning the ball over, disappearing at times in the fourth quarter. Again, it felt like he was standing in the corner. At times, it feels like Mitchell and Garland don't know whose turn it is to initiate the offense. And I know Garland last night obviously had 5 fouls. He was working through foul trouble. But I also think too, like you mentioned that 3-guard lineup. It almost feels like that's the lineup that they are most comfortable with when Rubio comes off the bench. It's like Rubio then becomes your primary facilitator.
Whenever Rubio comes in, it seems like he's the only one who 100% knows what he's doing.
Rubio and Neto. I mean, Neto's come in and played some big minutes occasionally and has gotten that spark. But then it's like, he only plays a couple minutes and then he goes back to the bench. And there's no consistency. These guys, we talked about this way a while back, but they're still playing way too many minutes, I feel like, and they're running out of gas late in games.
Yeah, I mean, it's something they have to address it. They gotta figure something out, because if they don't, we might be looking at a play-in tournament again this year. And I hate to say that right now.
No, I know.
I know it's not even the All-Star break yet, but the way that they're playing right now, I don't want to get down on them because, listen, guys, obviously we're huge Cavs fans. If we weren't, we wouldn't be doing this podcast. We have all the faith in the world, but they got to show us on the court. And right now, after such a ridiculously good start, and I get it, there's still, I think, 9 games? Is that 9 or 10 games above 500?
Again, they have the 7th best record in the NBA.
And that's the frustration, is like they should legitimately be a 1 or 2 seed, and we're bitching because they're not. But that's the frustration, is you can't play to, I mean, like, it's just every night it seems like they play to a team's level. If that team is the best in the NBA and they score 136, the Cavs score 133 and they lose. If it's one of the worst teams in the NBA, the Cavs scored 92 and that team scores 90, but the Cavs win. Like, how do you go from such highs and lows? Like, just get out there, beat the crap out of them, and move on to the next game. Like, I know it's not that easy. I know that, every especially nowadays in the NBA, team chemistry matters, as me and you have talked about ad nauseum for a long time. So there's a lot more teams that are around that 500 mark, some good teams. But the Cavs have 3 players who have been to the All-Star game: Darius Garland, Jared Allen, Donovan Mitchell, who has already been named a starter for the All-Star game this year. You have Evan Mobley,
who's a rising star again.
And over the last week has looked like he is taking that next step. I'm not going to say he's not even close to being fully there, but he looks like he is being more aggressive, like me and you have talked about. Isaac Okoro has looked better. So, so it's frustrating to see a lot of players doing very well, and then
They
they
lose.
still somehow lose. And it's, the only, like I said, you look at that bench, and that has been the one thing that's consistently been the problem is our bench is getting outscored by the opponent's bench by way more than it should, unless it's a night like against Houston where, Jetty scored 29, but that was because we were up by 30 at half. So I do want to tell you, you mentioned Garland, and I wanted to talk about this because, I
Okay.
was out in the Twitterverse a little bit today, and I put some thoughts out there. I said the Cavs need a wing. Um, I said I can't say it enough. I've said it before the season. I've been saying it during the season, and I'm saying it with the trade deadline approaching. And I had some very good responses. But one was a little interesting to me, and
Okay.
I want to talk about it. I don't want to no names out here because I don't know if this person wants to be
Okay. It's fair.
mentioned. But he said, "What to do with Garland? Honestly, he gets paid as a superstar, and with Mitchell, but with his size, is he? He really is not one. So he's saying he doesn't believe that Garland is a superstar.
Okay.
If you could get an all-star wing and a solid point guard in a trade for him, would you do it?" He was asking me this question. And he said, just throwing it out there, like if we could get Van Vliet and Anunoby or Siakam. Let me start off by saying you are not going to trade Darius Garland to get Fred Van Vliet and Pascal Siakam, or Fred Van Vliet and OG Anunoby. But I want to tell you a little bit about one Mr. Darius Garland. So I want to talk about this. I want to address this. Darius Garland is a star already. Darius Garland is 23 years old. This is his fourth year in the NBA. He has gotten his extension. He's going to be making for lack of better terms, a shitload of money next year. Now, people say, well, how good is Darius Garland? Is he a top 5 point guard? I think he's number maybe 8, number 9. Let me tell you this. Right now, he is averaging 22 points and 8 assists a game. That puts him at number 5 in the NBA in assists per game. It puts him at I want to say, actually, I looked it up just to know. That puts him at 28th in the NBA in scoring per game. There are how many teams in the NBA, Brandon?
30.
And he is 28th in the NBA in scoring. That means that he is one of the top scorers in the NBA, along with being in the top 5 in assists per game. Also averages a steal per game, which almost a steal and a half. So there are only 2 point guards who are averaging more points and assists. And I put the emphasis on and. Only 2 point guards in the entire NBA who are averaging more points and assists together than Darius Garland.
Can I take a guess?
I'll give you a guess.
At who they are. I think one is Steph.
Nope.
Okay, so one's not Steph. Okay.
Nope. Averaging more points, not averaging more assists.
Is one Ja Morant?
One is Ja Morant.
Will the other be Trae Young?
The other is indeed Trae Young.
Okay.
I was talking to someone earlier about this. They said SGA. Nope. SGA is Shai is not averaging more together, nor is I know he's hurt right now, but Tyrese Halliburton is not. Jalen Brunson is not. LaMelo Ball obviously is hurt, but if you put all the stats together, he is not. Darius Garland is only the only 2 point guards who are averaging more points and assists per game than Darius Garland is Ja Morant and Trae Young, who are both superstars, Brandon. They are both stars in the NBA. Darius Garland is a star. Is he a superstar? I don't know. Depends on what you define as superstar. Is he one of the best point guards in the league? Yes, he absolutely is. Were there times that he disappeared last night? Yep, I will say there was. But he also did hit a monster 3 at the end of the game to bring the Cavs within 2. So for someone average that is doing that at 23 years old, and he is only going to get better, I would say that Darius Garland is not going anywhere. We are not trading Darius Garland. He is not on the trading block. I do not know if there is anyone who could offer us anything that would make me want to trade Darius Garland. I know Donovan Mitchell can play the point guard, but I just don't know if I would trade a 23-year-old who is that good right now in the NBA. Not gonna
DG,
happen.
DG is a special talent, and me and you talked about this at length last year's podcast. Go back to those very early All Things Cast podcast days when Colin Sexton first went out, and we were talking about how impressive Darius Garland was. I mean, he felt like the soul of the team. There was a time where last year, if you remember, he had a weird injury situation with his back, and he was missing games, and the Cavs weren't really reporting it, and the Cavs really couldn't score without him. And when Mitchell has not been on the court this year, he's proven how valuable he is. I think, and I've said this on the podcast before, I think him and Trae Young are 1A and 1B. They're pretty much the same player, in my opinion. They are by far the two best point guards in the East, at least. And DG, without a doubt, is a top 3 player on this Cavs team. I think Mitchell's probably 1, DG probably 2, and then Mobley probably 3. Though we'll see what Mobley can eventually grow into, but that's the way I would rank them right now.
Well, I mean, if you want to get into like the actual, like if you want to get into like the actual like full on statistics, Darius Garland is averaging 0.2 more points a game than he did last year, and he's averaging 0.1 less assists.
Yep. So
I mean, you're talking such, but you added Donovan Mitchell. You added a superstar who shoots volume shots out, at least he did in Utah. And Garland is averaging the same amount of points, or is averaging more points and averaging the same amount of assists. And his assists have actually gone up in the last month. They were around 7, and the last month he's bumped him up to 8. He might be at 9 or 10 by the end of the season. So I did turn this person into a believer after I pointed everything out.
Okay.
I even said only 2 point guards averaging more points and assists is Morant, Trae Young, and that's just how it is. We went on to talk a little bit about what could probably be what's wrong. I will mention this person because this was actually a pretty good this was a good thread. A lot of people were engaged with it. So, but we gotta mention our boy Clarence from the Browns podcast. He's obviously we know Clarence loves the wings.
Clarence loves his wings.
So we had a little back and forth, and we'll go over that in a second. But man, we really had we just some really great people, really engaged and wanting just wanting to know what's going on. I know I will mention the Brownie Elf. The Brownie Elf, he always has good stuff. He said we absolutely need a defensive wing who can shoot the 3. But he's right, and he said sadly everyone in the NBA could probably use one.
Yeah,
he said he would love to see us make a deal from Brandon Ingram. You know what, Brownie? Me too, buddy. Me too. I don't think we're going to, though. And here is the last point that I wanted to make. Just on DG. Darius Garland is one of the best point guards in the NBA.
Yes.
Absolutely. There is no doubt in my mind. I'm sorry, but Chris Paul's not it anymore. Russell Wilson obviously has completely fallen. He's
Westbrook. You mean not Wilson? Well, yeah, Russell Wilson's fallen too.
He's done. He's done. Obviously you still got LaMelo Ball who's coming up, but he is. He could do a lot of things. I do not believe that he is on DG's level. John Morant, obviously is up there, as well as Trae Young. I would say Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, SGA, is up there. The way that Tyrese Halliburton has been playing in Indiana before this injury, he is up there. But I can't put him up there just now because he still has a little bit more to prove. DG has an All-Star game under his belt. But Darius Garland is going to be a Cav for a very, very, very long time, and enjoy it while we have him, because you do not get a top-tier point guard on your team like the Cavs have had between Garland and when we had Kyrie Irving. You know,
Kyrie.
bit we've been a little bit
What?
spoiled.
And Mark Price as well. I mean,
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm talking in like recent memory. You know, I
right.
mean,
But I mean,
Mark
we
Price was early '90s. You weren't even
yeah.
what
No,
you
I
you weren't
wasn't
even
even
born for
born.
Mark Price.
But listen, this team.
What do you know about Mark
Well,
Price, son?
hey, from what I've heard, everybody in my family loves Mark Price. They talk about him like he's freaking LeBron. I mean,
Mark Price is a Cleveland legend.
but
I would love to have Mark Price on ATC. Mark, if you are
Mark,
listening, if anyone's out there listening that knows Mark Price,
slide into our DMs. And by the way, make sure
get
you
up in
follow
here.
Joey at Goodfella_Joey on Twitter. But here's the thing, and you know, I have believed this, Joey, for a long time. I don't like excuses. I'm not an excuse making person, especially when it comes to sports, because I think that there are well run teams out there that solve almost all of their issues. If you have an issue to me, find a way to solve it. Don't bitch about it, for a lack of a better term. So, how do the Cavs solve this issue that they have? Because I think that there are two issues. Yes, we need a wing. We absolutely do need a wing. But arguably, we need more help on the bench. Arguably, you can make an argument at this point because it seems like JB doesn't trust Lamar Stevens. Sometimes he trusts Dean Wade, sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he trusts Jetty, sometimes he doesn't. You can make an argument in some way, somehow, even in the offseason, the Cavs need to make a whole new bench. But for this season,
I will say I hope that we're talking about this now. I hope that in 2 weeks the bench doesn't just start going off. We're gonna be like, the bench is the greatest. We told you guys how deep.
We told you guys. I like episode 50 before the season even
Listen,
starts.
this is the way it works in media. Everyone, if you are listening, you got to make predictions. We said the Cavs bench was really deep, and it looked like it for the first few weeks of the season. Now they have fallen off a cliff, and we got to bitch about it. But if they come back, we weren't technically wrong.
I think, for the record, I think I went as far as to say they have the best bench in basketball.
You absolutely did say that.
Well, they do not now, I'll tell you that.
Nope.
So here's the thing. The only way to me, because I think we both sort of agree, I do not think that they're going to be trading a Coro. I do not think they're going to be trading Wolford unless they get some crazy something back for him. I think the only way, and I don't even know if they're going to do this, but the only way for me to improve this team at this point, I'm just saying it, people, is what I said for 3 years before I started this All Things Cavs podcast. When I screamed into a microphone, I told Joey and ATC week after week after week, it is time, in my opinion, to trade Kevin Love. Now, what you're going to get for him, I have no idea, but maybe you get some sort of wing that, like a Cam Reddish. I've heard Doug McDermott's name out there. I don't know, somebody off the street.
So
go ahead.
So I think that you need to improve this team any way that you can. I mean, you can diagnose some of the issues. We need a wing. It's not a secret. We can see it on the court. We need a wing. Not a not a 6'5" wing or a 6'4" wing. We need a wing. 6'6", not 6'6", 6'7", 6'8". We need a wing. Someone who can play the small forward position. If we can get bench help, that'd be great. I actually think we may need a backup power forward.
I think we need that, and I think we need a backup center too.
Or just one person who can play both.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I know, but I don't know.
I was thinking about this wild trade scenario.
Someone threw a name out there of trying to trade for JaVale McGee. And I was like, no.
I thought about this. There's no way in hell I don't think that they would do this. But do you realize Orlando has completely cut Bo's minutes?
Okay, we're not getting Bol. Oh! The only way I'm trading for Bol is if we still had oh God, what was his name?
Moses Brown,
and who was our favorite player last year?
There was what's his name?
Oh God. How are we forgetting his name?
Ed Davis?
Huh?
Was it Ed Davis?
No, the guy who's like 7'6".
That was Moses.
No, there was someone else.
What?
Who are we missing? Taco Fall. There we go.
There we go.
That's the
I'm
only
keeping
way.
that in too, boys.
The only way that I'm trading for Bull is if we get Moses Brown and Taco Fall back on the Cavs. But I think Taco's playing international ball. So I had a couple of ideas. The problem is I don't know if the Cavs have the assets, because the only assets the Cavs have right now is you have LeVert, who's on an expiring contract. That's probably attractive to some teams who are looking, maybe to a team that could potentially make the playoffs. They might need some bench help. Basically, the Cavs would be giving up what they need,
Yeah,
in order to bring back someone who maybe they believe in a little bit more.
basically.
Or I think Okoro is a piece that has started to show his potential, and that might be attractive to a lot of teams, depending if they want Okoro. Now, are the Cavs willing to give up Okoro at this point? Now it's kind of seeing where he maybe could be next year or at the end of the season next year and beyond. Who knows? I think Okoro is looking a lot more attractive to a lot more teams. And like you said, Kevin Love. But basically what you are looking for is a team that wants to offload money for next season to try and go after some free agents. I don't know who those teams are. I mean, just some guys like I like off the top of my head, and I put this in my tweet as well when I was talking to people today. I really like Sadiq Bey from Detroit. If we were able to get something done with them, I would love that. I think that they are probably going to get the number 1 pick or the number 2 pick.
They're going to try.
Yeah, they're going to do their best. But I think that you could probably lure some better talent there. So they might be looking to offload some money. And if they are, LeVert and maybe a second or 2 seconds for Sadiq Bey. Maybe they do want Okoro. Maybe you do Okoro and LeVert for Sadiq Bey. However, you have to make the money work. I really like Bey. He's 23 years old. We would have to re-sign him. I believe this is the last year of his contract. But he's 6'7", plays solid D, shoots I believe 37% from 3. He's kind of reminds me of a lot of Jeremy Grant.
Yeah, I agree.
So I like him a lot. I think that if they are going to trade him, another team might jump in and might give them more. Obviously if you just want someone to see if he could do something, go out and see, the Knicks have said they want a 2nd-round pick for Cam Reddish. Give them what they want. Even if he walks at the end of the season, what's the harm? We need bench help.
Exactly.
I mean, we've seen. I don't know what happened between Reddish and the Knicks, but he's had games this year where he's scored over 20 points, and he's had 10 boards and good assists and blocks. I mean, he's long, he's athletic. I don't know what happened with him in the Knicks, but the kid can really benefit from being on another team. And I've said this name, but apparently, half of the league is after him, and that's Bogdanovich from the Hawks.
Yeah,
not Bohan from the Pistons, but the younger one. And unfortunately, I don't think I think the Hawks might be a team that would be looking to that want to offload some money. But unfortunately, I don't. Are you give him Okoro? I mean, in an ideal world, I would take Bogdanovich and John Collins.
Yeah, I agree.
And we'll give you LeVert, and Okoro. You love LeVert, Okoro, and then like 2 second-round picks. Maybe you could trade up and back into the first round if you want. So at that point, we have our backup power forward. We got a wing. We're good to go.
Yeah. So the interesting thing I believe about this trade deadline this year is 2 things, and this isn't from a Cavs perspective. This is more from a league perspective.
That there is not going to be one blockbuster trade.
Number 1 is that there are a lot of teams right now with the exact same record. And so, or very close to it. I think 5 from 13 in the West is separated by like a game or two, something like that. So, because of that, how much do these teams really feel like that they're going to upgrade? And the second thing is, you and I have talked about this a little bit off air. We haven't really talked about it much on air, though we mentioned it occasionally. This draft class, obviously, everybody knows about the number one pick in the draft, Victor Wembanyama, but the entire class as a whole is a very, very, very good draft.
It is.
And I believe there are going to be teams this year that it's going to be like, do we really want to get into the 10th seed of the play-in tournament? Or would we rather tank to try to get the best draft position possible?
Well,
And
yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think that's what some of these teams are going to have to start to. I think that's what like the Raptors are thinking about right now, because you see, I mean, I have seen Gary Trent's name. Gary Trent was that was a trade that was proposed. I can't remember who proposed it, but it wasn't a rumor, but so much just someone proposed Gary Trent to the Cavs. It was like Gary Trent and I think Kevin Birch to the Cavs for LeVert. It was LeVert, Okoro, and a couple of second round picks. Okay. I'm not a fan of. I mean, I like Gary Trent, but we need a wing. We need a freaking wing, not a.
I
like Ken Birch too, though.
Yeah, I will say this about Altman, because Altman has a proven track record of two things. Number one is he likes to be aggressive, and he is a trader. He is showing that he is willing to negotiate. But number two is, ever since the Cavs made that big blockbuster trade in 2018, and they went out and we basically did redo our whole bench at the trade deadline that one year in one last attempt to get to the NBA Finals, we were eventually swept by Golden State. Outside of that, Altman has really done a good job at making, I would say, 80 to 90% of trades that have worked out in the Cavs' favor.
Not just trades, but good signings too. It's
good signings. Well, which is another reason why I'm thinking of like, is there a possibility maybe there's a guy that gets traded? Who knows what's going on with Jake Crowder and the Suns? Is there a buyout candidate there that maybe the Cavs can go after? That maybe they don't make a trade.
You also have to look at what about is Neto? He's only on a 1-year deal. Is Neto available to be traded?
Yeah, but I mean, he's like a backup to a third point guard. I mean, outside of like,
I don't know, a team that really needs a backup point guard.
I mean, maybe I guess if you're a contending team like Boston or a Milwaukee, maybe.
I know Boston has backups upon backups upon backups, but
I'm just saying, like, if you're a contending team, like, I don't know.
But like, get back to my point. Like you got Toronto. Like, I've heard Pascal Siakam up in trade talks. OG Anunoby, but they want I love OG Anunoby. I love his game. Me and Brandon have talked about OG, and he knows that I like him. I would not give up. And if any executive is listening right now, which I know that they probably are, because it's ATC, all executives listen. You're laughing. How many times have we said a name that we said last year, and then like the next day it was a rumor up on the internet. So if I'm any NBA executive, I am not giving up what the Raptors want for OG. Yeah. OG's a great player. I shouldn't say that. He's a good player. He could be great, but they want young talent and 3 firsts. They basically want what we gave up for Mitchell.
Yeah.
Donovan Mitchell and OG Anunoby are not the same thing. OG is not on Donovan's level. Not yet. I don't know if he ever will be. He's a good player.
If I had to make a prediction right now, I would say the Cavs actually do not make a move.
I don't think so either.
I think they stand pat. And I think we're actually gonna have a very quiet trade deadline. I think it's gonna be quieter than usual around the week. That's just big trades.
I'm hoping for a big splash, and that's just because Brandon, I love me big trades.
I know you do.
I love it. I really do. I think the Cavs are going to explore every avenue they can to improve themselves. Colby has always done that. He has, anytime he feels they need to make an upgrade, he has always explored whatever he could. If there is something out there, the Cavs will explore it, and if they feel that it's something that they should do, it will be done. However, I do agree with you, partner. I do not believe the Cavs will make a trade, and I think that it's a combination of I don't think they're going to get in return anything better than what they currently have, and I don't think that there's a team out there who just strictly wants to clear cap space, unless you're the Lakers and want to get rid of Russell Westbrook. But I don't like Russell here in Cleveland.
And I don't. And at this point, I mean, they're in the national media. They're talking like Russ is the sixth man of the year. So I don't know what to expect. Like I said, there's a lot of teams in there that are at the 500 or a couple below or a couple above, and then there's those teams that are like right on the edge of like even Atlanta, Toronto. Teams that we both expected to, potentially compete for a playoff spot this year.
And they're going to be sellers.
Yeah. So
that's another guy I like, DeAndre Hunter.
Yeah,
from Atlanta.
I like him a lot.
I like him. Yeah, I like him. I mean, there are guys out there who can help the Cavs. It's just that what we're sending out might not. Is it really going to be that much different?
The Cavs don't have the real problem they have is not only is they don't have the picks, right? I think if you were to go over and maybe a first round pick and something like that,
I think you give up as many second round picks as you want, but you can't. Yeah, you can't give up.
But they don't have a first round pick that would entice anybody, regardless, even if we had one. We don't now because of Mitchell, but that's really like no team to me is going to want to take just a player for a player. They want picks.
Yeah, I mean, we can't. I don't think we could trade a pick until. What 6 years from now
potentially,
because we also gave up 2 pick swaps, which would be, so you can't trade your first round picks in consecutive years. So that's it's crazy, but it is what it is. I think that the Cavs are going to stay pat. If they make a move, it would be it's probably gonna be something smaller. If it's something huge, we might do a special ATC just to talk about it. It'll definitely be up on BelieveInMediaLLC.com in written form. Go and check it out on there. If something does happen, will probably be something on there if they don't make a move as well. So make sure to check out our written content as well. Brandon?
Should we talk about this game against Ja Morant tomorrow night? The Memphis Grizzlies.
I think it's time to preview the games.
Of course, as I just said, Ja Morant, the Memphis Grizzlies are coming to town tomorrow on TNT, national televised game. This is a chance for the Cavs to show the whole world what everybody knows and wants the Cavs all year long, and that is that they blow leads. But will they tomorrow night against the Memphis Grizzlies? That is the question. Listen, we saw the last time they played Memphis. It was a very competitive game, a game that, again, they could have won the game if they just finished. They're going to make me drop another F-bomb. I'm trying very hard not to drop another F-bomb at the same point like I did last week.
I got to stop you for 1 second because I did do a special post-Royal Rumble episode of the Pile Driver podcast here for Believe in Media just the other day. If you have not checked it out, go to the Pile Driver podcast and take a listen with Dean and Mike, and we had Paulie on from
OCW.
From OCW. It was a great episode, but we were talking about your F-bomb drop because they drop F-bombs over there, up you a couple times. Apparently most podcasts have, and that was our first one.
That was our first.
I thought that it would have been me, but you were so amped up, and it was the most glorious thing. If you have not checked it out, go listen to episode 65 of ATC, last week's episode, for just the most amazing F-bomb in the history of ATC. But go ahead, partner. Keep going with your.
Will the Cavs freaking win tomorrow against the Memphis Grizzlies?
I'm going to be realistic here. I'm going to say I don't think that they're going to pull it off. Ja Morant is playing at a high level. Desmond Bane is the second best shooter in the league next to Steph Curry. Yes, I do think he overtook Clay. You know, I like Dylan Brooks, someone who I wish the Cavs would maybe take a swing at for a trade.
Heck,
Steven.
heck, he wanted to take a shot at Shannon Sharp, so
Shannon, okay, listen. Dylan Brooks, you know I love you, buddy. I think you're a great player. You know that if I was not a Cavs fan, I would probably be a Grizzlies fan. So I do love me the Memphis Grizzlies. I think the Grizzlies are going to win. I think the Cavs are going to come up a little bit short in this game. I want to get that out of the way. But listen, I'm talking to you, Dylan Brooks. You're a great player, my man. I actually wish you were a Cav. If you want to go back and listen to our trade episode, I said I think the Cavs should trade for you. But if there's one thing in this world you do not want that smoke from Monk Shannon. You don't want it. You do not want that smoke. He apologized. He apologized on national TV. He meant none of it. Behind that apology, he was like, "Come at me again and see what happens." You do not want that smoke from Uncle Shannon. You don't want it. I'm sorry. You're a great player. Yes, I do think you can guard LeBron James. You're a great defender, but you cannot guard yourself from Uncle Shannon.
I had to throw that in there. But I do agree with you, though. I think this game is very close. I think it comes down to the wire. I think John Morant has an incredible highlight dunk that will be all over the internet because I really want to see, because I told you before, I think John Morant's arguably the most fun player to watch currently in the NBA.
I think John Morant saves a lot of his really good dunks for the Cavs.
I think he does. He really does. And I think Memphis comes to Cleveland. I think it's, again, very close. 2 3-point game. I think it does come down to the wire again, just like it did last night against Miami. Cavs will lose their second straight game at home before going to Indiana to take on the Indiana Pacers. Now, this is a Sunday game. Of course, this Sunday we have the Pro Bowl. Next Sunday is the Super Bowl, where my thought on the Eagles, I have to throw it in there.
Go for it.
Will be playing in the Super Bowl, February 12th.
I am going. I'm two things before we get to the end of the game. Number one, the Pro Bowl is absolute crap.
It is. It's garbage.
You cannot have Tyler Huntley. Isn't that who made it from the Ravens?
Tyler Huntley. Are you effing kidding me?
2 touchdowns all season, 300 something passing yards and 2 touchdowns. How the hell Jacoby Brissett should have been in there? I mean, Brandon, you should have been a Pro Bowler. They should have picked you to the Pro Bowl. It's bullshit they didn't. And you made a mistake when you said that the Eagles are going to be playing the Chiefs. I'm sorry, you didn't make a mistake, but you forgot to add to that. It's the Philadelphia Eagles will be beating the brakes off of the Kansas City Chiefs in the Kelsey versus Kelsey Bowl. And I am going with Jason Kelsey. You know, I love Travis too. But I think that the Eagles are just the most complete team in the NFL. And I think the Eagles are going to not just win the Super Bowl. I think they're going to win the Super Bowl by 17 points, Brandon.
Kevin Sledge, that is our audition to join Clarence and Dean on Brown and Orange Weekly every single week. But with that being said, Indiana Pacers this Sunday, the first Sunday without football in almost 6 months. But we got basketball.
We got basketball.
They should win this game. Will they? Hopefully they will.
They are. See. Oh no, they are winning this game.
Okay.
And one more thing before we get to this game. This is ATC. We like to have fun at ATC. We'll talk about whatever we want. And the Cavs are going to beat the brakes off of the Pacers because they owe them one. The last time the Pacers came and they made it a little too close. I think the Cavs still won that game, didn't they? Or the Pacers won.
No, they did. Indiana won.
Oh yeah, the Cavs don't. They're gonna remember. This is gonna be a revenge game. They're gonna get their shit together and they're gonna beat the brakes off of the Pacers.
And I hope that they beat the absolute living crap out of Washington the next night, because let's face it, Washington, to be honest, is really tangy. They're not very good. Outside of Beal, there's no real threat there.
Even Beal's fell off.
Yeah,
for the most part.
I mean, even on a back-to-back, and it's crazy because, before we thought we were getting Donovan Mitchell, we both kind of thought a big swing they could make in the offseason might have been Bradley Beal. But
thank God we didn't.
But Washington is completely a terrible team. Washington is one of those teams that it's like they're there. I don't even know how great of a fan base they have. It's like, hey, you're playing the Wizards. Who the hell do they have if you're not a diehard NBA fan? You know, it's like one of those teams they should absolutely beat. It'd be disgusting if they lose to them. And you know, I think the Cavs, just to make a long story short, they take care of business against Washington.
I agree with you 100%. Cavs win against Washington. They're gonna go on a 2-game win streak. I don't know if they know what a win streak is after it's been a while, but if you win one game and then you win the one right after, it's called a win streak. I think they're gonna get that this week.
Can they make it 3 in a row? Can they beat the tanking Pistons at home the night before the trade deadline?
Yes, they're going to beat the brakes off of them. I think that if we do somehow swing a Sadiq Bey trade, it's going to be because of that, because they are playing. Kobe Altman will be there. And yeah. I think that's actually the best way to do it. Kobe, convince the Pistons to tank and trade Sadiq Bey. But yeah, I do think that the Cavs 100% beat the brakes off of the Pistons as well. And I think that the Cavs are going to go 3-1 in the next week.
So it is very possible to me, if they don't go 3-1, at the very least, they have to go 2-2. There's no excuse though, really, for them to not go 3-1 after the Memphis game. They're playing 3 very inferior teams. They have to, though, show up early like they did against Houston, like they did against the G League Clippers tonight, and just beat them down. Have no doubt. Go in there, play well, and that Pistons game will be the day before the NBA trade deadline, and then we'll see what happens on Thursday.
If the Cavs somehow go 1-3, like I think they're gonna actually just turn off ATC after the amount of F-bombs Brandon's gonna drop on the next episode.
If they go 1-3 or 0-4.
If they go 0-4, I'm just gonna put tape over my mouth for the entire episode.
If this team, I'm telling you, Cavs, you might want, if you really think this is funny, do it. I dare you. Because if this team does not play up to par next week, if they just completely stink, whoever edits these podcasts, make sure you find that little censor button, because you're gonna be using it a lot.
Brandon's just sitting there going, "Do it, unleash the beast."
If you want to unleash the beast, go ahead and do it next week. You know what? I'm not even gonna say it. No. I can't even put it into existence.
No. All right. They're gonna go 3-1 at the very, I think no worse than 2-2, but they're gonna go 3-1, maybe even 4-0, because they are the Cavs. They will figure it out. Brandon, we are going to come back next week after the trade deadline. Maybe we'll have something to talk about. Maybe they do make a trade and we come on a little earlier. Who knows? But I could tell you this. It was a fun show as always, partner.
This is a fun show.
Always fun.
Always. Love it. We'll see you guys next week. We're going to talk all things trades. And until next time, Joey, you know there's only one thing left to say.
Let them know.